right, you're still watching See Today News, and today we're going to have a business talk discussing about the European Union ongoing economic partnership with ASEAN, especially with the ongoing CEPA negotiations with Indonesia. And with us today is the chair of the European Parliament's Committee on International Trade, Mr. Bernd Lange. All right, Mr. Lange, thank you so much for welcoming us in the EU office in Jakarta, and thank you so much for your time for this interview. So you're here for a 3-day official visit, is that right?
That's right. Thanks a lot for inviting me. Yes, we are here with a delegation from the International Trade Committee for 3 days.
Yep. And can you share with us your primary purpose of the 3-day visit in Jakarta?
Of course, we see that the links between Indonesia and the European Union are growing and growing. Specifically, of course, regarding the global situation of uncertainty, and I think that's really a good movement. We are negotiating for a long time a trade agreement, and I hope that we conclude it this year, and I'm really optimistic on that. So let's see that we can celebrate the conclusion of the ratification of the agreement when I'm visiting Indonesia the next time.
Right, and who have you met so far, or who you will meet, and of course the key focus on each one of the meetings?
Of course, we try to meet all stakeholders, so we made a field visit yesterday to a coffee plantation, looking also for the implementation of European law, the deforestation law, and it's really moving really in a good mood and in real partnership. And I guess that's really important to have a clear common goal to stop deforestation, but to implement it in a real partnership. And this was also one of the main achievements, I guess, from the last years, to build on this partnership. Also regarding the use of European money to implement this. Then, of course, we will have a lot of discussion with different parts of society, business, European business, Indonesian business, civil society, trade unions, so that we have a proper view about the view of all stakeholders here in Indonesia, and then, of course, a lot of talks with the government as well. And I hope we can really move ahead with the trade agreement. That's the main purpose of the visit.
Right, so the EU and Indonesia is currently negotiating on the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, or CEPA. And so can you share with us, why Indonesia is significant compared to other ASEAN countries, say Vietnam or Singapore, or perhaps the Asian superpowers like Japan and South Korea?
I guess we see that there is a close economic link between Indonesia and the European Union. But of course, there are some irritations, some hindrance regarding proper trade. And we see also that Indonesia is really moving to stimulate economic growth, sustainable growth, and therefore I guess trade could be an engine. And the fourth largest country in the world is a big power in the field of trade, and therefore I guess it's really the main partner from the European Union in this ASEAN region. Even we have some agreements in force, like with Vietnam and with Singapore, and the examples show that trade is really increasing, and this leads also to more investment, and in the case of Vietnam, even to a trade surplus for Vietnam compared to the European Union. So there is really an advantage also for our trade partners here in the ASEAN region.
Right, and in your perspective, what are the challenges and opportunities so far regarding the negotiations?
We have had 19 rounds of negotiations, so a long time, and I guess in the last year the acceleration was there, and I think we will have a round quite soon. Of course, we at the beginning we had to look at what are the problems, what are the different kind of certifications in the air, and what kind of trade barriers we have. And step by step, we really move to an understanding, even in some hot issues like the public procurement openness to offers from the European Union, or the question of having a proper solution for the nickel export. So we have the common goal that the processing of nickel should be done in Indonesia, so that there's a benefit and also additional employment in the production process, and not just exporting the raw material to the European Union. The possibilities how to arrange this and how to do it, we have to fix it. We did a similar exercise with Chile and lithium. There are possibilities, and now I feel there's really an openness to find solution for the outstanding issues.
And how would you ensure that sustainability as well as labor rights is being upheld in these agreements?
Of course, sustainability is a key element, I guess. Also, on both sides, we have common goals regarding combating climate change, also regarding establishing the core ILO labor convention and the environmental standards of the United Nations. And that's totally clear that in such a comprehensive trade agreement, this is an integrated part, and we will have also some measures to have a proper implementation, by the way, on both sides. It's not just a one-way street, so it's also valid for the European Union. And we will find also some mechanism to have some kind of enforcement on this sustainability. Because in general, it's totally clear that trade is not an end in itself. It has really benefiting the people on the ground in stabilizing their livelihood and giving perspective also to this, secure our environment.
Right, and ASEAN and EU has been partners for a long time. We've been collaborating for a long time. In your perspective, how does the two-region cooperation has evolved for perhaps the past 2 decades?
Yes, we started 2 decades ago with some cooperation, and originally we wanted to have a region-to-region trade agreement. But unfortunately, this was not possible because also in the ASEAN community, the development was not so fast going on as expected. Also, the declaration, I guess, from the middle of the last 10 years on really bringing the ASEAN community to an internal market was not really implemented. So, and of course we see also the differences between Myanmar and Singapore in the ASEAN community, so it was not so easy to find a common view on that. Therefore we have this approach now to have a trade agreement, comprehensive trade agreement with different countries in the ASEAN, and once again Indonesia is one of the really most important in this field. Nevertheless, we have really good political relations with the ASEAN countries, and in this global field, having big partners on China and the United States, of course, regarding also the economic growth in the ASEAN region, there is really an attempt that ASEAN can become the new tiger in the Indo-Pacific world. And yeah, I'm really keen to support this development because there are so many nice people and a lot of potential in the ASEAN region, and this should be also go to a self-confident community.
Yep. And the past few years we've experienced major global events such as the COVID-19 pandemic and also the geopolitical tensions that currently is happening. So how do you think that affects or changes the relations between EU and ASEAN?
So the European Union is a reliable partner. So you see it for more or less ages and in our relation to other countries. We learned a lot of European history and that we have really to establish a relation in fair partnership and in stable and reliable way, and we did it. And this is, I guess, a big advantage compared to other partners around the world. And you mentioned the uncertainties even created some weeks ago, and some unfair trading practices from other big partners as well. So we are really a reliable partner, and this is really key for stable trade and for investment decisions. And I guess we are needing investment in Indonesia, but also inside the European Union. And if you can give security and reliability, that is a big advantage.
All right, and we know that the COVID-19 pandemic has a major effect on the global economy. So how does the EU, what role does the EU play post-pandemic towards the ASEAN supply chain resilience?
First of all, I have to mention that during the COVID pandemic, the European Union was the only region worldwide which allowed half of the production of vaccine going to third countries. So we have no export restriction on that. This also is one further argument for having the European Union as a reliable partner. Yes, we are looking to the resilience of supply chain. I guess the main factor is that we didn't want to be dependent on only one supplier in different product areas, and therefore we are really diversifying our supply scheme. And this is also really important for Indonesia, because in a lot of products Indonesia has also the possibility to be a new supplier for the supply chain for the European Union.
Mm-hmm. All right, and we know that China is a growing influence, and given the current geopolitical dynamics, how do you think that the growing influence of China could affect the relations between EU and ASEAN?
China is really trying to get more influence politically, but also economically. They are really depending on exports. They have a quite slow increase in domestic demand, so they are really depending on export. And this leads also to some unfair trading practices, and we have some conflicts with them as well. And we should really work together to stable international trade system which is based on rules. And so I appreciate very much that the European Union and Indonesia are working in the frame of the WTO, the World Trade Organization, together to stable the rule-based order. And this is also a clear signal to China that we want to have a rule-based order and not a hegemony of a specific trading partner. And I guess a proper trade increase will also stable the economic situation, and also give an opportunity to eliminate products coming into the market which is based on illegal subsidies and dumping practices.
And do you think that's going to be an issue regarding the illegal practices?
That's of course an issue, and we are sticking as European Union always to the rule-based system of the WTO in the case of anti-dumping, anti-subsidies mechanism. We have at the moment 200 cases in force, and around about half of them are targeting to products coming from China.
Okay, and is the EU seeking to offer a third way for ASEAN countries between the US and China in terms of economic alignment?
Once again, we are a reliable partner, and therefore, as our model of relation is different to other big partners, no doubt about. And specifically the European Parliament, is always looking that we have trade agreements in fair partnership, where really the benefit is on both sides, so it's not a one-way street.
Okay, I'm going to talk about something that is a hot topic currently with the Trump tariff, and how do you think that the tariff affects, the relations between EU and ASEAN, and the whole dynamic with the economic negotiations?
Yeah, the chaos policy of the United States. Mr. Trump called this 2nd of April a day of liberation. I would say day of inflation, because it has really hard consequences for the global economy. It also brings a lot of uncertainty, so that is really bad for investment. And therefore, I guess we should really try to establish, also in the WTO, a clear group of clear friends of the multilateral fair order. And there are also a lot of countries thinking about that, like several countries in Africa, so that we can re-establish a system of fair trade. And I guess we should also give the United States a clear signal. We did it also in formulating some countermeasures. So of course, the European Union is quite a big economic partner. And so I guess we should really use our forces and give a clear answer to the United States. We will not be your victim. We will still a partner in the global economy, and this, I guess, also President Trump has to be recognized.
Has the EU have some talks with the ASEAN leaders in terms of this, and maybe have a same say perhaps on this?
We have different talks. Of course, the situation is quite new, but of course we need also to unify this, and there are some reflections how to do it, perhaps a conference in the frame of WTO, so that ASEAN countries, but also other countries, more or less all countries worldwide are affected by this illegal tariffs from President Trump, and come together. Yeah.
Do you have any key messages for the Indonesian stakeholders, be it in the government and the private sectors?
Let's go for a fair partnership, and once again, we are a reliable partner, and I guess nobody where we have a trade agreement with is really claiming that we are unfair. Now we are looking for fair partnership, for cooperation, and also for implementation of the rules of a comprehensive trade agreement in partnership, and sometimes also regarding financing from the European Union. And this is really necessary to get benefit for the people on the ground, and that's the main task of a trade agreement.
And last but not least, what's your hope for the EU-Indonesia as well as the EU-ASEAN cooperation?
Let's see how the ASEAN community is developing. I know that internal there are also some problems, or we have the political problem with Myanmar and a little bit with Cambodia. And I hope that this will lead also to an internal discussion process in ASEAN, so that the ASEAN community can strengthen also their political responsibilities. And this would really help in really getting closer between the European Union and the ASEAN community.
All right, Mr. Lange, thank you so much for the fruitful discussion. Thank you so much for welcoming us in your office.
Thanks a lot. It's really a pleasure.
All right, that wraps up our interview. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned on See Today.